All right, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rock Kakadash, the runners to the apostles and the elders, a great millstone, the time of his truth. All right, who's going to go into the subject and do a lesson on whitening? All right, the whitening in Latin America, South America, every country down there went through a process called whitening. All right, now I'm gonna start off with Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 33. Thus the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. All that took them captives hold them fast and refuse to let them go. Alright, so we know the only place that Israel and Judah has ever been held captive together outside of Egypt is Babylon the Great. Alright, our current captivity. Alright, the Americas. Alright. Their Redeemer is strong, in the Lord of hosts is his name, and he should thoroughly plead their cause, that he might give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. Alright, so it will let you know that the children of Israel and the children of Judah were going to be depressed together, and that the Lord was going to bring them out of their captivity. Alright, now before I get into the video, I'm gonna read Second Ezra, the 13th chapter, the 40th verse, and this is what is believed Columbus read when he decided to make this trip over here. All right, these are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of the land, out of their own land in the time of Osai the king, whom Salom, Samaria, the king of Asher, Assyria, led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so they came unto another land. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathens and go forth unto a further country where never mankind dwell. All right, so this is letting you know they went to a place that no man has ever dwelled before. All right. And we know man was everywhere on the other side of the world, but wasn't no man over here in the Americas. That they might keep the status which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates River by the narrow passages of the river. And they say keep the statuses that they may never keep in their own land. And we know that the people over here were keeping different Hebrew customs before the settlers got over here, and Columbus brought Hebrew interpreters. All right, so that was just more evidence that he knew exactly who he was going to and what people he was expected to run into. All right, for the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over. For though, for though that country there was a great way to go, namely a year and a half. The same region is called Ashur. Alright, and then dwell they, alright, there until the latter times, and now they should begin to come. Alright, so it pretty much said they was going, the 10 tribes were going to dwell in the land that they in until the latter time. Now I'm not going to read this, but we also know that the 10 tribes is in certain places in the Middle East and Africa based on Isaiah 10. And like one thing I always tell people, both can be right. All right, you know, Israel is scattered throughout the planet. All right, so you do still have parts of the 10 tribes in the Middle East and in Africa, but then you got the 10 tribes that's over here. And like I remember when I first came to the truth, and I was just talking with Moshe about this earlier. You know, I've seen the 10 tribes chart, and I was researching. I was like, nah, man, the chart ain't right. Chart ain't right. But then I began to really study the chart and look it up things for myself. And I remember I called Moshe back, and I told him the charters right, but all the Israelites were black. All right, and now that still hold fast even to this day. All right, so what you got to understand that when Israel was first over here, even the Latin tribes, they were all what you would consider Afro Latinos, and through the process of whitening, only through that process do you get the Latin tribes looking the way they look to this very day, and that's what so many of these black only Israelites can't get past. It was whitening that changed their skin tone to what it is today. All right, I'm gonna play a little bit of the video, and then I'm gonna hit some more scriptures.
This is one of the first free black towns in the Americas, San Basilio de Palenque, Colombia. Listen to the drums, explore the murals, and study the dancing. It was founded around 1603 by self-liberated Africans who escaped from the slave ports of Cartagena, Colombia. Spanish colonizers relentlessly tried to destroy this town, but centuries later, it's still standing. And this is the only black president Colombia has had. They purposely erased him from history books. Government officials even sent his official presidential portrait to Paris to whiten his appearance. You may not have expected to find stories like these in Latin America. See, the dominant narrative is that racism doesn't exist in the region, just class issues. And I'm here to tell you that is a lie.
Pero es que no hay negros en la Argentina.
It's a very convenient cop-out for Latin America and for Latinos, Latines to say, well, it's not as bad as the U.S., and they're right. It's worse.
This is a story about Latin America's long and brutal history of erasing and silencing black populations and its ploy to whiten society. Here's the thing. Anti-blackness is so deeply ingrained in the Latin American region that it's often ignored or defended. Like in the case of Dominican baseball player Sammy Sosa, who downplayed using a bleaching cream that whitened his skin. From Peruvian newspapers using 159 different racist adjectives to describe African-descended people, to terms of endearment like mi negrita, which actually stem from the idea of people as property, to blackface, used as a form of entertainment. It's all part of a slew of everyday racism. There is plenty of evidence showing that racism is rampant in Latin America, but many Latin Americans have evaded accountability by treating racism as solely a U.S. problem. Unlike the U.S., where racism was upheld by legal separation like Jim Crow laws,
You're not affected if you're not for segregation.
countries including Colombia, Mexico, and Brazil encouraged the mixing of different racial types, known in Spanish as mestizaje. As a result, this ideology of mixing has been used for centuries to deny the presence of Black and Indigenous people throughout the region.
This idea that everyone is mixed also has been completely overblown because Latin America is not unique in its mixedness, but that has been the mantle that it has taken upon itself so that you can evade accountability. How can we be racist if we're all mixed? Well, you certainly found very many ways to be.
Meet Harris Machado. She's Panamanian American and the producer of Negro, a docuseries about Latino identity.
We all know those sayings. You're treating me like a Black person. Trabajar como un negro, working like a Black person. Don't marry a Black person. Come on. Be serious again. And everybody knows these sayings. This is every single last country. Like, stop playing with us. Stop playing in our faces.
To understand how deep anti-Blackness runs in the region, let's go back a couple of centuries, starting with the wars of independence from Spain for the region now known as Latin America. Meet Simón Bolívar. He's considered the great liberator of Latin America. But he wouldn't have liberated anything if it wasn't for the help of Haiti, where a rebellion by enslaved Africans created the only free republic in Latin America and the Caribbean at the time. Haitian President Alexandre Pétion agreed to help Bolivar on his quest for liberation under one condition. If Bolivar won, he had to abolish slavery and the new republic he was fighting for. Bolivar agreed, and a few years later, he defeated Spain throughout South America and declared himself president of present-day Colombia, Venezuela, Panama, Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia. Around 60% of soldiers who fought for Bolivar were black, but Bolivar betrayed them. His promise to completely abolish slavery was a lie. He even complained that black soldiers were audacious to want absolute equality. They had to wait 40 years after the war to gain their freedom. Bolivar and many other white elites feared that they would eventually be outnumbered by black and indigenous people, so he maintained Latin America's colonial, racial, and class hierarchy to keep control among the white elites. Bolivar believed in liberation, but only for some.
Whites will not give up anything to black people, or in general, unless it benefits them more. We're talking about a definite racial and social stratification that was the foundation of the region and in which the region still adheres to. Nothing has changed.
Anti-blackness was baked into the foundation of the region, but that anti-blackness didn't stop with Bolivar. See, the emancipation of slavery was a threat to the social hierarchy in Latin America, so white elites came up with a plan to systemically, physically, and culturally wipe out black people. How did the region do it? Mass white European immigration, while banning the immigration of non-whites. Welcome to the Blancamiento and Brancamiento period, which literally mean to whiten. The goal was for future generations to no longer have visibly black and indigenous people, so that the national identities in these new nations would be associated with whiteness. In this period, elites aimed to make black people disappear through their gradual absorption into the white race. Over 10 million European immigrants settled in Latin America between 1880 and 1930, with 90% of them going to Argentina, Uruguay, Cuba, and Brazil. Brazil even went as far as to pay for transportation costs from Europe and passed a law making European immigrants automatic citizens as soon as they arrived. European immigrants were given preference over black people in jobs, housing, and education, and the impacts of this are still felt today. Today, over 78% of Afro-Brazilians live below the poverty line. There have been many attempts to resist the relentless oppression of black people.
All right, now, for many ways, it looked like a lot of our people got down with Esau in this whole whitening agenda, and that is what happened to the Latin tribes. This is Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 22. For my people is foolish, they have not known me. They are silent children, they have no understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good, they have no knowledge. All right, because this was a very wicked thing to be even joining to these Edomites like this, to the point to where it changed the whole complexion of your race. And also, it is also so a lot of tariffs into the Northern Kingdom. And this is one thing people don't really want to get into either. Yes, there are tariffs in the Southern Kingdom. There are plenty of chocolate covered Edomites. But the Northern Kingdom has way more tariffs in it than the Southern Kingdom. And the reason why is because of this process we just got through watching of the whitening. All right. And that is why the Lord wrote, said in Matthew, the 13th chapter, 24th verse, another parable, but the fourth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man which sows good seeds in his field. But while the man slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. And when these Europeans came over to the Americas, to South America, Latin America, and beginning to plant their seed all over, because most of these immigrants that were coming over were Edomite males, all right? And they were coming over and planting their seed out in these Israelite women of the Northern Kingdom, all right? And they created a lot of terrorists, a huge amount of terrorists in the seed line, all right? And this is one of the reasons when you try, to minister sometimes, it seems like they can't get it. And it's mainly because a lot of the times you're dealing with Esau. All right? Even though the chart right, these are Israelite races. There are so many terrorists that a lot of times you are just straight up dealing with Esau. 26th verse. But when the blades were swung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servant of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, dost thou sow as good seed in thy field? From which then has it tares? Right? And he said unto him, to them, an enemy had done this. The servant said unto him, Will thou then that we go and gather them up? So what he said, an enemy has done this. All right. And as you can see how Esau was showing there after he conquered the people and was supposed to let them go and didn't do it. All right. He brought more of his people over to help widen them and put away a whole lot more terrorists into the Northern Kingdom. All right. That was the enemy that had done this. But he said now, that's why you gather up the tares, you root up also the wheat, and with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest, I will say to the reaper, Gather ye together the first, the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather together the wheat into my barn. All right, so this is what I'm letting you know, because it is impossible to tell which members of the Latin America is Northern Kingdom Israelites and which members are Edomites. You just preach to them out. All right. And then when the time comes, the Lord is gonna root out the ones that are not supposed to be here. All right. And as you can see, this whole Latin America tried to eliminate black people video, it was hitting on point. I got one more video on the subject, then I'm gonna come back with a few more scriptures. All right, get this one right here.
Brazil, upon abolition, was faced with a question about the future of Brazil, in the world, right? And having been one of the last countries to abolish slavery and seen as backwards and inferior, they were grappling with what to do with this majority black population. How do they move forward and become modernized and become comparable to Europe and other countries that was modernizing long before the abolition of slavery, how they could compete. So in Brazil, there was a concerted effort at the level of government, the federal government, to eliminate and exterminate the black and indigenous population through whitening, branqueamento. Embedded in the idea of whitening, of course, is the idea that blackness and indigeneity are inferior, and that you're being European and white are certainly superior. And in Brazil, the understanding was that they were going to become a superpower in the world economically and socially by becoming more white. And what that means is not just the cultural representations, it's not skin bleaching, it's not the ideological whitening that takes place over time, but an actual biological whitening that meant an actual financial investment in the importation of European whites that would produce a new white race in Brazil. And this is real. By 1890, the Brazilian white population had increased by more than 5%. So the census in 1950 shows Brazil as predominantly white in actual numbers, right? And the numbers of, for example, mixed race also increase. And it's only until recently, partly through kind of Black consciousness movements and so forth, as well as just the resilience and resistance of the Black and Indigenous population, that Brazil is considered to be 51% African descendant, 51% Black. Right? So whitening was not just an ideological project; it was an actual biological project.
All right. So now you see where the idea of whitening came from, and this is why also that when you know dealing, you got to try the spirit by the spirit. All right. This is First John chapter 4, and I'm gonna start at verse 1. Beloved, beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirit, whether they are of Yahweh, because many false prophets are gone out into the world. Hereby know ye that the spirit of Yahweh, every spirit that confesses that Yahweh Amashiach is come in the flesh is of Yahweh. And every spirit that confesses not that Yahweh Mashiach is come in the flesh is not of Yahweh. And this is that the spirit of an antichrist. And we know that there are many antichrists in the world, or anti-Mashiachs in this world. Whereof ye have heard that it should come, and even now already it is in the world. Ye are of Yahweh, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. So it's letting you know that the power of the Lord is greater in you than the power of any of these people that's following the Lord, the word. Right? It's better to be with the Lord. They are of the word, therefore speak they of the word, and the word hears them. We are of Yahweh. He that knows Yahweh hears us, and he that is not of Yahweh hears not us. Hereby know we the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of Yahweh, and everyone that loves is born of Yahweh and knows of Yahweh. He that loves not knows not Yahweh, for Yahweh is love. All right, so pretty much you guys to try the spirit to know um, who's an Israelite and who's a Tur when dealing with the Northern Kingdom because of this whole process of whitening. So when the black only Israelites try to say that all Israelites are black, you know, technically they are really right. All right. Now we know they ain't gonna look that way, all right? And you know, uh, so-called brown people because of all the mixing now, and it's impossible to really tell. But what did he say? So-called white Latino is pretty much a Edomite Latino, all right? Now, but that doesn't mean that they might not forefathers might not go back to an Israelite. So that's why you have to try the spirit. All right, now this is Jeremiah, the 12th chapter, and I'm gonna read verse 9. My heritage is unto me as a speckled bird. The birds round about are against her. Come ye, assemble all beasts of the field, come to devour. So this is when you know that heritage is like unto a speckled bird, that Israel was going to come looking like all these different nations. All right, and we go over to Revelations, the 7th chapter, and I'm started at verse 9. And this I behold, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hand, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our power, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. And we know this great multitude was all Israelites, and they came looking like all nations because we know that Israel is scattered into all nations and looks like all nations. All right, so we go to it looks like all nations. All right, now I'm gonna go to I'm gonna end this one with Ezekiel 37 and verse 15. All right, the word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel and his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph and the stick of Ephraim and for all the house of Israel and his companions. And join them one to another into one stick, and they should become one in thy hand. And that is what we're going through right now. Israel is beginning to join back together. The southern kingdom with the northern kingdom, the Native American and Latin tribes. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, will thou not show us what thou mean by this? Say unto them, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel, his fathers, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, that they should be one in my hand. And the stick where thou's right should be in thy hand before thy eyes. And he said unto them, thus said the Lord Yahweh, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, from where they be gone, and will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land. So the Lord said he's going to take the children of Israel, both Judah and Israel, northern and southern kingdom, is going to bring them back into their own land. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountain of Israel, and one king should be the king to them all. And they should be no more two nations, neither should they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. Neither should they defile themselves, sin more with their idols, nor with their distasteful things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of all their dwelling places where they were sinned, where they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So should they be my people, and I will be their God. All right, so this is the Lord saying, that He's going to clean up Israel, make them perfect. That's that new sinless flesh. All right, and David, my servant, should be over them, and they should have one shepherd, and they should also walk in my judgments and observe my status and do them. And they should dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob, my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they should dwell therein, even they and their children and their children forever. My servant David should be their prince forever. All right, so it's saying the house of David is going to reign forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them, and it should be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. All right, so this is the Lord letting us know that both we was all going to fully return back to the Lord. All right. My tabernacles also should be with them. I will be their power, and they should be my people. And the heathen should know that I, the Lord, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary should be in the midst of them forevermore. So it ain't gonna be no denying Israel in this time. So everyone is gonna know that Israel has returned back to the status where the Lord wants them to be. All right, but as you can see, man, this whole thing of whitening in Latin America, this thing really took place. All right, let's see what. See what. So it's just something to really keep in mind. All right, I'm gonna end it with
Hi,
this.
I'm Kevin Roach. I'm a professor here at CSC. I
Salakia for the
am going to
commercial.
be guiding you along. God, am I an Edomite? Will I burn just 'cause I'm white? Am I the heathen thou shalt smite? I thought I was safe inside the crowd. Even if I'm Edomite, I know I'm safe through faith in Christ. God, am I an Edomite? Think about love beside I've hated. That means if you look like me, you'll make it. God so loved the world that whosoever except for you need a mice. If you believe on Jesus Christ, will I be like unless you are in need of mice? Am I an Edomite? I beheld all nations and kingdoms and people and clothes, except the Edomites. Am I an Edomite? Will I burn just 'cause I'm white? Am I the heathen thou shalt smite? Thought I was safe inside the pride.
All right, I just wanted to play that to show again how it was a very stupid thing to go through the process of whitening. All right, for our people down there to go along with the Edomites who pushed it. All right, now, now, so the 12 tribes chart is completely correct. Yes, the original um, Israelites that were here, the 10 tribes that came over, 10, 9, whatever you want to call it, that came over, were all dark skinned people. All right. And through the process of whitening is how they got the color they got now, which didn't do nothing but put a whole lot of terrors into the Northern Kingdom. So now you really can't look at them and tell who's Esau Edom and who's Israel. All right. You got to try the spirit. It's the only way to know. All right. Because, I mean, they got more terrorists mixed in, man, then you can probably really keep count of. All right, so you got wheat and tares, wheat and tares, wheat and tares, and that's the Northern Kingdom. And yes, there are tares in the Southern Kingdom. There are chocolate covered Edomites, but the Northern Kingdom, the so-called uh, Latin tribes, for the most part, the so-called Latin tribes, got way more tares than the Southern Kingdom. All right, it's just the way it is, and it's because of this process known as whitening. So with that, I'm gonna say, Shalom.